What if every time you went on social media, your timeline was flooded with heartbreaking news about more casualties in the very city you were born and raised in? My survivor's guilt was too vast for me to do anything about it. My name is Nasser Almanj, and I am the founder and CEO of the Youth of the War Together organization YWT, and this is my ride from a frustrated teenager to a leading youth democracy activist. YWT is a non-profit youth organization that creates online and offline safe platforms for free expression that promote democratic values and human rights.
I left Yemen in 2012 and moved to the United States. I might have moved there physically, but I remained in Yemen both mentally and virtually. And in 2015, the ongoing war began, and with it came the curbing of the already limited freedoms. The polarization was widespread. Different parties to the conflict soon began recruiting youth and installing in them ideologies that serve their agendas. The youth started to believe that the situation will never be changed through democracy and peaceful means, and the only solution for them is to get armed and go to the military fronts. So I took it upon myself to use the privilege of being an American and share some, no matter how little, of the freedom I enjoyed as a Yemeni American living in the United States. The immense drive I felt, along with the passion I have for filmmaking, and my firm belief in the power of arts, media, and culture as the most effective way to engage and activate youth for supporting democratic process and initiatives. Our very first project as the YWT was a conference we called Volunteer Talks, VTalks. The goal of VTalks was to create a platform for Yemeni volunteers to share their experiences and to promote and enhance the culture of volunteerism amongst Yemeni youth. We hosted the event 1 year after the war began to encourage the youth to live in the now, to volunteer now, and never give up or wait until the conflict is over to get started. This later became a guiding start for us at YWT. We will not start when the conflict ends, we will start to make the conflict end. We will contribute to bringing that end by creating a resilient generation capable of leading Yemen toward a brighter future. Despite VTalks being our very first project, we had a great turnout with our incredible team of volunteers. The success of that event and the impact we saw that it had on those who attended fueled our fire and made us realize how important the existence of an organization such as YWT was, and inspired us to strive to get to where we are today. Today, YWT oversees 29 projects reaching 11.4 thousand beneficiaries. We have contributed to shaping their way of thinking about human rights by engaging them in spreading the culture of democracy. We have launched several advocacy campaigns, the last of which reached over 3.8 million people in just 7 days.
One of YWT's most cherished projects is Trick24. It is an independent youth social media platform that promotes openness, accountability, and democratic ideals via the use of data visualization, fact-checking, and narrative, as well as by shedding light on important events by designing content that reflects Yemeni society today. In a country where most people get their news from social media, Trick24 is the only youth platform that has no affiliation with any political party. It uses the spoken Arabic vernacular to ensure the receptivity of audience. Over the last 2 years, Trick24 has acquired more than 50,000 followers on all its social media accounts, reaching 500,000 users, 10,000 page visits, and 11,000 account engagements per month. At Trick24, we specialize in effectively discussing taboo topics of extreme sensitivity to our conservative society in a manner that is not only engaging but also liberating, and we can quantify that based on the very human responses we receive from our audience. Here's a quote from one of our female audience members who said, and I quote, "You helped me break out of my fears and barriers of shame." We are proud of the trust we have been able to build with them and how they open their hearts to us. In addition to that, we also educate people about their rights by simplifying the Yemeni constitution and laws, which gives us a considerable amount of feedback on human rights. Our fact-checking work also garners us a great deal of engagement. Despite it being a new kind of content in Yemen, our audience even begins sending us topics they find questionable to fact-check so that they too can contribute on ending the spread of misinformation just like we asked them.
We have trained 127 filmmakers and 44 content creators who promoted democratic values and human rights in their work, in addition to producing 67 films, and started Yemeni first ever dedicated human rights film festival, Karama Yemen, which aims to advocate for human rights and social justice, encouraging debate and open a democratic dialogue on human rights issues by screening films from different parts of the world. Expanding the horizon of those whom the dictators and armed militia having done everything to convince them that democracy is a dangerous ideology foreign to our culture, when in reality it was our ancient Yemeni Queen of Sheba who introduced the concept of Shura, consultative democracy. And our civilization has long prided itself on coexistence and protection of dignity and human rights. Our platform works to install democracy as part of everyone's daily routine applicable to every aspect of life, whether at home, in the street, or in the country as a whole. Our platform actively counters the widespread hate speech and disinformation being shared on social media platforms and beyond. We have proved that art and culture are not only luxury and means for entertainment, but are in fact effective tools for creating social change. The idea of remotely managing a team you have never met was intimidating. In addition to the 14-hour difference, Yemen having some of the worst internet in the world didn't make anything easier. Not to mention the security risk of operating in a disputed capital under the threat of airstrike on one hand and imprisonment on the other, especially given the sensitivity of our work. Another challenge was that, because of the country's situation, the majority of funding to CSOs in Yemen was redirected to the humanitarian work. The cliché saying, "nothing worth having comes easy," perfectly describe our work at YWT. Finally, we must remember that wars don't last forever. The coming of peace is certain, and that this too shall pass. And once that time comes, youth will bear the burden of transforming the fate of the nation. And we will do everything in YWT's power to ensure that the youth of the world together are prepared to shoulder that burden.